Hi, this is Paranormal Encounters, and I'm your host, Brenda McGee. Today I have a very special guest. His name is John LaCrosse. Hi, John.
Hi, Brenda. How are you?
Good. How you doing? Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, recently retired, Chief of Police in Barrington. I was the chief there for 17 years, right here in Barrington, Rhode Island. And then prior to that, I was on the state police for 23 years, rising to the rank of major, which is like number 2 in command for the state police in Rhode Island for 23 years. So in totality, about 40 years in law enforcement.
Wow. And now what are you doing, John?
Well, during my career in law enforcement, I started early, say 2002, taking some Reiki classes, some energy work, and that led into some meditation work, mindfulness meditation back in 2014. And so now I'm at Brown University training to become a level 1 teacher in mindfulness meditation for first responders.
Oh, that's amazing. And as we know, there's so much going on right now with them taking their own lives and things like that. So there really is an urgency for this.
Absolutely.
So what is it that got you started, or how did you, start with this?
Well, a long time ago, I hate to say how long ago, but in 1979, I was at URI. I was a student there, college student. And so I left college junior year, second semester to train for the state police, Rhode Island State Police. And so I was training, lifting weights, and preparing myself for the academy, and I didn't get in. So I'm out of college. I'm not in the State Police Academy. I'm home with my parents. And about a week later, my brother commits suicide. He takes his life. I'm working in a gas station, so now, things are really, in a depressed state for everyone. Within 3 days after the academy started, I get a call at the gas station, and it's the captain of the state police, and he wants to know if I want to go into the academy because 3 people have left. So I said, yes, Captain, sure, of course I will. He says, get a pencil, take this down. So I start writing down everything I have to bring up to the academy. He says, be up here tonight at 6 o'clock in Foster at the training academy. I said, yes, sir, Captain, thank you, and I hang up. Then I'm like, where the hell's Foster?
Right.
I'm from East Providence. I have no idea. I go home, I tell my parents, and they're all happy and crying. And so we've gone from rock bottom up to the top. My father drives me up to Foster. Big Nike site opens up the gate, and I go in with my duffel bag, and I start the state police. So in a short period of time, I was always wondering, is my brother alive in spirit? What happens? And for 23 years on the state police, I've always been curious. I've always been searching and wondering. And I started getting those answers about life after death. And that brought me into going to mediums like yourself and different people who were giving me readings. And with my background on state police, being in detectives for 8 years and building cases and evidence for judges to sign, I was pretty hard on a lot of these mediums, but they were giving me information that there's no way they could get off the internet. And back then there wasn't that much of Google around.
Right.
So I became a believer.
And you felt like that helped with your healing?
That tremendously helped me with my grief, absolutely. When I sat there in a chair and this person's naming people by first name that are behind me,
right,
and nicknames, and describing them. Other mediums who gave me all the facts about my brother and his death and what happened to him, and describing him.
Yeah.
So I put that medium to the test, and I said, "You gave me everything, but what's his name?" And she puts her hand on my shoulder, takes a deep breath, and she said, "Jay, it's Joseph." I said, "Yes, we call him Joey." So, true believer. So I went home, I got his picture, 2006. I got the picture of my brother and laminated it at CVS, put it over the visor of my police car, and started driving around, taking the picture, talking to him, and asking for signs.
And then you got them, didn't you?
I've got many signs. I have a journal, and being a cop for 40 years and talking to people who have lost their loved ones, I think they see that this truthfulness that
right.
there is life after death.
Absolutely. And what got you on the path of healing?
Well, Roland Comtois was the one who really gave me my first reading in 2001. And he said, I have a lot of energy in my hands. And I said, oh, being a state trooper, what's that mean,
Right.
And so he goes, well, I'm doing a Reiki class shortly, so if you're interested, give me your address and I'll tell you when it's going to be. And I said, what's Reiki? He says, well, it's healing with universal life force energy. I'm like, okay. It's like Star Wars. I mean,
Right.
So I'm like, all right. So still on the state police. 2001, this was right after 9/11, and I'm waiting, and then I'm waiting in October, November, December, and nothing from Roland. I'm like, I guess he's not having a class. December comes along, and my good friend from childhood gets shot and killed in East Providence, Al McGregor.
Oh my God.
It was a tragic accident, and now he's dead, and I do his eulogy, and it's in January, and I finally kind of look up, and I said, Al, I said, give me a sign. Am I supposed to take this Reiki class with this guy Roland back in September? Give me a sign, please, and that you hear me. The next day, in the mailbox, envelope from Roland, because it wasn't email back then.
Yeah.
Reiki class is starting in February 2002.
So every time something traumatic has happened to you, something good has happened to you.
Something, yeah.
And it's almost like they're putting you on your path,
mm-hmm.
and that you felt guided to do all of this.
And when I get a sign, or I ask for a sign, I usually get it, which I think is pretty tremendous.
I think so too. And I think because you were a reputable police officer, police chief, and all of that, I know some people probably thought, oh, what is this all about? But I think because you were a respected person, that they kind of listened a lot more, because it's come a long way.
Oh, yeah. So I took Reiki 1, 2, and 3 back in 2003 and 2002, 2003. And then I went to a Women's and Infants Hospital, and I started to volunteer, went through all the certified stuff to become a certified volunteer. Gave me an ID patch and told I was with the Barrington Police as the chief, and so I'd go up to the 4th floor and give Reiki to different clients and energy work 20 minutes at a time. So every time I would go there, it'd be like every Tuesday night, oh, here comes the Reiki cop. Oh, Reiki cop's coming in. And so, and then the people actually liked it, and they wanted me at different rooms if they knew I was coming back the next week.
That's awesome. So now what are you doing?
Well, going back to the meditation work, I started getting into John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness meditation breathing, because in Barrington, even though it's a small community, and we've had a lot of tragedy with kids dying, drunk driving, fatal crashes, suicides. And back when I was on state police, my kids started calling me Captain Intense, because I was so stressed out. So I knew I had to do something. So I started the Reiki with meditation. I kept going until 2014. I went up to UMass Medical Center and started the John Kabat-Zinn mindfulness meditation, and that really helped.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to give that calmness to my police officers in Barrington and to the parents and people I was dealing with. So I started giving some meditations, and then just recently joined Brown University to continue to be a level 1 certified teacher.
That's amazing.
And I've had a class at Roger Williams University, which I was very nervous, and about 20 police officers showed up. and it's called Address the Stress. So we all have stress, but when I get on the state police, the stress was like, hey, eat it, kid, suck it up, get out there, do it, don't talk to me, don't be a wussy.
Yeah.
But I think in law enforcement today, they have to realize that if they're stressed in everything that we see, and firefighters as well, first responders, EMTs, you've got to address it.
Right.
You've got to talk about it.
Yeah.
You've got to let it out and learn how to kind of settle yourself by meditation. Working out is great, running's great, biking's great, rowing, all that stuff, physical activity. But sometimes when you meditate, it creates that space of calmness, and you become laid back, and you're the observer.
Right.
You observe a thought that comes to your mind. And then you look at that thought that you created.
Right.
No one else created. You created that thought, that anxiety, that stress, and now you look at it with curiosity and kindness without judgment and say, okay, does this serve me anymore? Have I held on to this too long?
Right.
Is it time to let it go? And maybe not quite yet, but let's rewrite the story, flip the script about really what happened, and maybe I can lessen it.
Right.
And then go back to the breath and let that thought go by. It'll always be there. If it's grief, it'll be there. But the meditation part gives you a chance to actually calm down. And there's so many case studies from universities, West Coast, East Coast, about how the meditation, mindfulness meditation, calms the brain, doesn't set out the cortisol, the fight or flight,
Right.
and it lets the frontal lobe start to react and grow back.
Right.
Because once that fight or flight and you're getting super stressed out, you can't think straight.
Right.
And so a lot of the public safety personnel are getting sensory overload. This sensory overload, they can't think, they can't function. So I had one class there. I had another class for school resource officers at the Crowne Plaza. And I'm having another class at Roger Williams. I think it's December 11th. And hopefully more will come. And I got some good reviews. I mean, they enjoyed it. I was nervous.
That's good, though.
Even though 40 years in law enforcement, I was nervous because, in the public safety realm, everybody's guarded.
Right.
And they don't want to show that they're weak.
Right.
But it's okay. We all get stressed.
Right. And it's in an environment where they can feel like they can decompress. They don't have to, be on guard or anything like that.
Right.
So that's amazing that you're doing that.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's something for me to continue to get back, even though the 40 years is behind me.
Right.
It's something for me now to get back, because I sat there on the computer before this class and I went through 2 pages of my own stress, from the state police days and organized crime and, search warrants and raids and guns and
Right.
high-speed chases and fatalities. Then Barrington, all the death notifications and dealing with things like that. And, say you're not alone,
Right.
and it's okay to be stressed out.
Right.
Now, how do we deal with it?
Yeah, and you've done it with, now you're doing Reiki healings.
I have a little Reiki studio right down the street in East Providence. It's Taunton Avenue. I have a website. It's called healingwithheavenslight.com. So there's no apostrophe, but it's healingwithheavenslight.com. If you Google me, you'll see my name. There's a couple things that came out. There's one article I want to show the viewers.
Absolutely.
So I started with a meditation in 2006. I don't know if they can see that. I'll hold it up. There he is. And so this is from the journal, 2014. Katie Mulvaney went to this Mothers Against Drunk Driving annual vigil. And so what happened was I ended up, which I normally do for MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving in Rhode Island, and I do a guided meditation for all the people who lost loved ones from car crashes or drunk drivers. And so it's about a 10-minute video about the victims, surviving victims, going into their mind, seeing the darkness, seeing a light, walking towards the light, and they see a body, a person within the light. They enter the light. It's their loved one who died as a result of this drunk driving crash and see their face, see them smiling, I'll hug them, hold them, bring them close.
Right.
You know, what are the words left unspoken? So that started in 2006 because I think I actually got help from my brother when I was writing down what I was supposed to do in Barrington. Fast forward, I did it for all these years. Katie Mulvaney from the Providence Journal goes, she calls me a month later and leaves a message and says, Chief, I was up in Smithfield, you gave the meditation, called a visit to see your loved one. You know, people were crying in the auditorium. How is it that you're a chief of police but yet so spiritual? I'd like to do an interview. So now my heart's pounding, like, oh God, here we go. Because I'm kind of like quiet about my spiritual side.
Right.
And so I go home and I tell my wife, and she goes, oh no, you don't. And I said, what? You're not going to go to the Providence Journal? What if they start, you know, doing this on purpose just to, you know, sabotage you? And
Right.
well, she doesn't write it correctly, and people start laughing. I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to do it. And
Good.
I met with Katie Mulvaney, and she interviewed me for a couple hours, and kind of like we're talking, told the whole background. And when in 2006, MAD came to Barrington, and the director, Gabriel Body, asked me to say some opening remarks to these people who are there on their vigil, I said, okay, what do you want me to talk about? She said, well, like drunk drivers, you know, how many crashes in Barrington. So as I'm doing it the day before, I'm like, they don't want to hear about statistics.
Right.
They want to think they're there for their loved ones.
Right.
And giving gratitude and love to their loved ones, I'm going to do a guided meditation. And so in 2006, in Barrington, in uniform, and all my fellow police chiefs in the front and some troopers, I told the guy to drop the lights down, bring up this elevator music, and I started with a close your eyes, put your feet flat on the floor, walk towards the light, and see your loved one.
Right.
And people start crying and opening up. And it was pretty moving.
So you've pretty much been a healer with your words, with what you do. I want to get all of this in before, but how again, if someone wanted to, say, go to one of your meditations or book a Reiki session, how would they go about finding what you're doing, and how could they get in touch with you?
They could go on the website, but the website's going to direct them to either my cell phone number or my email. So the email is pretty easy. It's my name, John M. Lacrosse, Lacross, @yahoo.com.
Okay.
That's how old I am, like Yahoo.
I still have Yahoo.
Oh, all right.
And what, now what about your healing site? It's
the same, the healing site for Reiki, if they want a Reiki. Again, it's at 373 Taunton Avenue, but they can email me for a session, like a 1-hour session. They can also email me if they want me to go to their business. I've done a few 1-hour professional development for Edward Jones, the Temple Habonium in Barrington. I've been there for Rosh Hashanah. I've been to a couple other places. I'm going to Women and Infants for their professional development annual thing. So if they want like a 1-hour mindfulness meditation, they can email me, John M. Lacrosse at yahoo.com. If they want a Reiki session, they can do that as well.
So you would go to other places and you would do meditations at their place. They just have to, you know, discuss that with you.
Yep. I've got one coming up. I'd say about 2 weeks from now. It's just a professional group getting together, and they just want to learn about it. The key thing with mindfulness meditation is your breath, and it's portable, and you can take it anywhere.
Right.
And you only need 3 to 5 minutes just to get in the rhythm of breathing.
Right.
And
if they learn that tool, it just helps them where they can do it on their own time.
Exactly.
But it's very important for them to learn things like that and to know that there's other people out there. Like even the energy healing and all, it's become a lot more popular now, which is great. So it's getting Reiki out there, and it's so fulfilling. And I know this is why you do it, John, because you feel like this is your sole purpose also. But you're making such a huge difference by doing things like this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
That's
it.
why it's like it's so important for you to let them see you with your different hats.
Well, the biggest thing for me was the fear.
Right.
The fear of coming out with the spiritual side. And I finally had to just say to myself, it's fear or love.
Right.
And you'll get nowhere with fear, but love. And if I can help one or two people, then it's worth it.
And I know people have had profound experiences with your Reiki sessions also.
It's been it's pretty interesting. I don't know how much time you have, but I had a client, and I was the chief of police in Barrington. So I got my client is on the table, a male, he was a good golfer, and he had a knee issue. So his wife said, well, go see John LaCrosse. He's a good Reiki practitioner. So he comes in, I give him the Reiki, the head, the knees, the feet, and it's over. And he says, I said, how was it? And he goes, oh my God, I was like gonna relax, and I just felt like I was floating. And he goes, but I could ask you one question. I'll use a name, I'll say Paul. I said, what is it? He goes, you're not taping me, are you? I'm like, why would I tape you?
Right.
I said, no, I'm not taping you. He goes, I felt the heat of your hands on my shoulders. Then you went to my knees. I could feel the heat there, but your hands felt like they were still on my shoulders. I said, well, it's like the footprint, the energy footprint. Then you went to my feet. I said, yeah, I did. And I could feel the hands on my knees, but I knew you were at my feet. But who put their hand on my wrist? When did you touch it? I said, I never touched your wrist. He goes, come on. I said, swear to God.
Yeah.
I was at your feet. I got long arms. I'm 6'2", but I can't reach that wrist from your feet.
Right.
I said, it's going to be a loved one, maybe a mother who's passed over, because they all come in
Right.
for the healing.
Yeah.
He goes, that was weird. I could feel the fingers and the thumb.
And that's why I always tell people, I'm not going to tell you what you might experience because everybody experienced something different. But can you imagine telling someone, hey, you might be feeling more than one hand on you?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like when they say it afterwards, you're like, yes, yes.
This was weird enough that he was worried I was taping him. And I said, I don't tape you. But I said, I asked for your loved ones to come in, and the beings of light to come in, ascended masters to help, Reiki masters to help me send the energy where it needs to go.
Right.
And so that was like just one thing. And also being the chief, you don't want them to think that it's a weird situation. And because that was weird, but it was enjoyable.
Yeah, and it's the more you do, it's just you make such a difference. And when people are coming to you, it's by word of mouth, and things like that. So it's almost like divine guidance for people to come to your events and things like that. And that's why I wanted everyone to see you on a different side, because now that you're retired and all, you have more time, and you've chosen to do your spiritual work also.
Yeah, and I tried to send the message to the men and women of Barrington about being compassionate. Everybody has a story, send the love to them. They're not all the bad people, and and once this came out in 2014, I got my chops busted by a few people. Oh, Chief, I'll be up in a minute. I got to meditate,
Of course.
But they looked at it differently, and other people called me from all over.
Right.
In 2014 and after, police officers, because it went viral.
Right.
And how they are more now taking charge of their spiritual path.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time, John. So go again, how they can get in touch with you?
John M as in Michael LaCrosse. So John M LaCross @yahoo.com, or go on my website healingwithheavenslight.com, and there's contact information there as well.
And there's also information and things like that you offer, but they'll deal directly with you.
Yep, goes right to me.
And
If you Google my name, it'll probably even give you the
The background of everything.
everything
Because
that they
people
need.
Google everybody nowadays.
Yes. Or they can call you, and then you can call me.
That's right. So, John, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
And if anyone would like to get in touch with John, if you can't get through his website, you can email Paranormal Encounters, tv9@gmail.com. Or you can, like I said, he gave you your information and things like that. And if you're having any issues paranormal-wise, you know how to reach me. And thanks for watching. Thanks, John.
Thank you.